Hello, everyone. Let's just meditate for a few minutes, wait for our other students, and we'll get started very soon. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to our monthly meditation and Dharma sharing. Typically, we have it on the first Tuesday of every month. So obviously, last Tuesday was election day, so we postponed it to this week. Today's topic is karma. So that's a very interesting topic, and we'll use some example to explain karma. I'm not going to use the election as an example to talk about karma. That's a little bit too raw right now. We don't want to be thinking about that. But on the other hand, Venerable and I had a chance to do our annual visit to a state prison in California, and so we'll talk about that. We'll use that as an example towards the end to have a discussion on how karma uh, affects our life and how we could. This is the most important part: is how we can actually change karma. Okay. All right. Thank you. So we'll have that. Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you. Can you let me share the PowerPoint, please?
And I can change everything. So I gotta find it first. There we
Okay.
go. Sorry about that.
All right. Okay. So, good evening, everyone, wherever you are, or good morning. Um, so the topic is karma. Um, I was going to combine this and dependent origination, but this topic is way too big. It's actually very complex, so I have to speak on it its own, and it doesn't do justice even for me to talk about it in 20 to 25 minutes. I apologized. If you want to, um, if you guys want to learn more about it, I highly recommend go to the sources that I post at the end of this PowerPoint and go to access to insight.org. He's a Buddhist monk and he has written a lot about karma, or the one by Bhikkhu Bodhi, The Way to End Suffering. Highly recommend that you guys look into that and find discussions and writings by experienced teacher, not just lecturers or scholars. To begin, first, I want to bring up an article that was published on October 10th. There was a study about MBSR being applied to people with depression. So the study selected 276 people. They divided them into two groups. One was doing the MBSR. The other one was taking medication. I think it's called the escitalopram medication. And after 8 weeks, MBSR literally has the same effect as the medication for anxiety, except that with MBSR, which is actually mindfulness-based stress reduction, it does not have any side effect as opposed to taking medication. So that is the difference. That's why meditation is highly effective. It may not be for everyone, but for the majority of people, uh, mindfulness meditation does work. So what is karma? Karma actually means action. Vipaka is the result of actions, basically cause and effect. But we are so used to use karma. We should have used vipaka. And what we must know and understand that karma is not fatalistic or bad fate, and that is not that we are powerless to change. According to the Buddha, we can change the consequences of our karma. And here in the Anguttara Nikaya, he said, intention, I tell you, is karma. Intending, one does karma by way of body, speech, and intellect. What that means is that the things that whatever that we think and that will lead to our speech and actions. And all of this carry karma, and it's because of our intention. So we must be very mindful in terms of our thinking process, or the thoughts that we developed, and how when we speak, when we act, we need to be quite mindful because we are the owner of our karma. And for most Americans, karma functions like fate. We think, oh yeah, I suffer because of karma. Whatever unfortunate event or things that happen, people attribute to karma. Even actually, a lot of Asians, from the Asian countries, so actually, and also more so with the Buddhists, if they suffer an accident, this and that, oh, they say, oh, is this is because of karma, or they get into a bad marriage, or if their kids turn out to be problematic, and the parents would say, this happened to my family, so I know, and I know so many parents. They say, oh, because of my bad karma from last lifetime, so I must suffer in my marriage, or I must suffer being abused by my children. And that is the very, very wrong perception and belief. Um, the Going back to the Buddha, during his time, the concept was not fatalistic at all when the Buddha talked about it, because we can change. And here, from the viewpoint of karma, when it comes to old karma over which we have no control, right? What we are is a nebulous concept at best and pernicious at worst. When we use it to find excuses for acting unskillful motives, the worth of a tribe lies only in skillful action, meaning that whatever that we did in the past, we can change. It does not, it should not have any burden or any influence on our current behavior. So let's say if I did something bad, or my behavior in the past was bad, I should strive to improve, not because I did bad and I continue on that path, which is the wrong thinking. So basically, the Buddha's teaching on karma is not fatalistic. It's a direct challenge to a basic thrust in our culture. Only when we abandon our obsession with finding vicarious pride in our tribal past that we can take pride in motives that underlie our present actions. Can we say that's why you can say that the word karma in the Buddhist sense has recovered its luggage. And when we open the luggage, we'll find that it's brought us a gift, the gift we give ourselves and one another when we drop our myths about who we are and can instead be honest about what we are doing in each moment, at the same time making the effort to do it right. Meaning that when I realize that what I did was wrong in the past or what I spoke, then I need to make an effort to change it like right now. So why this karma? Why karma, right? So what it is that we need to recognize our intention, whether it is wholesome or unwholesome. When we think, when we speak, when we act, basically our conduct. And to understand why people behave the way they do, we need to look at the motivation behind their behavior. And their behavior is what? Right action, right speech, right livelihood, which I think we cover at the beginning, I think this year, which is the Eightfold Path. Our behavior depended on our volition or mental formation, which involves the 52 mental factors. So the untrained mind, meaning that one is not mindful of one's intention, then this person is continually acting out of their habits because they have been conditioned. With meditation, Danisa Bhikkhu, call it the trained mind, then the person is being more mindful and cautious of his or her thinking process, speech, and actions. So karma can be looked at as a multiple feedback loops with the present moment shaped by the past and by the present action, and actually it will also shape our future. So our present actions need not to be determined by our past actions. There is, there's an element of free will. And that's why like we can be free of our past actions, our bad karma. That is the teaching of the Buddha. And so when we look at people, their past, they may suffer inequality, that we noticed the inequalities that we see, as human beings. But that can be changed. But the people involved, they need to realize, need to understand what happened to them, and need to have some kind of what I call action plan, how to what to do in order to change that inequality. For example, if you experience stress, try not to continue that unskillful mental habits that would keep that particular karmic feedback going. Meaning, let's say, like for some of us who have anxiety or fear, then we need to be mindful of that fear and not allowing our mind to keep involved and falling into that trap. That's what karma, or that's what mindfulness is. So here, taking responsibility for our action. Here, the Buddha taught in one of his sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya 5.57. Basically, he said, I'm the owner of my actions, heir to my actions, born of my actions, related through my actions, and I have my actions as my arbitrator. So therefore, one needs to reflect often that I'm the owner of my actions, I'm the owner of my speech, I'm the owner of my thoughts, so that we can change. And in mind, the thing is, when they often reflect on that fact, then bad conduct in body, speech, and mind will either entirely abandon or grow weaker because we stop ourselves from negative thinking, negative speech, and negative behavior. And here, karma should be known and understood. Karma should be known. The cause by which karma comes into play should be known. The diversity in karma should be known. The result should be known. The cessation should be known. The path of practice for the cessation of karma should be known. So that is, and what is it? Is the contact that is the cause of karma. Meaning, when we think, meaning when our senses come into contact with the objects, respect uh, the corresponding objects. We need to be mindful. When someone yelled at us, that's contact. We get angry. Then how do we deal with that? Do we just um, give it back to them, throw it back to them, or do we just take a pause and figure out how to say properly? We can also walk away, and that's what this means here. The other thing that the Buddha brought up was that what is the diversity in karma, meaning that there is karma to be experienced in hell, in animals, in the realm of hungry ghosts, in the human realm, in the devas. That's what it means, meaning that we are in this human realm. The karma that we do is the human karma, and then you have animals. They also experience their karma, meaning the way, let's say, your pet, the way your dog or cat things behaves is part of their in their karmic um, mind. And here, what is the result of karma? Meaning, the result of karma is of three sorts, right? That which arises here right now, or later, or next life. That's why, like, there is this in Buddhism, there is this belief that this past life, karma from past life, karma in this lifetime, karma in next lifetime. That is the result that we suffer. And what is the cessation of karma? Meaning we need the cessation of contact, that we need to live our life according to the Eightfold Path, which is right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And that is the path of practice leading to the sensation of karma. The other thing, here's one thing that the Buddha taught Rahula. Rahula, before the Buddha was enlightened, he was married. He had a son, whose name was Rahula. And the Buddha said, "What do you think, Rahula? What's a mirror for?" And Rahula said, for reflection. And in the same way, Rahula, bodily acts, verbal acts, and mental acts are to be done with repeated reflection, meaning when we think, when there's a thought that comes up, we need to reflect on that, whether that thought is positive or negative. And the Buddha always said, if it's negative, drop it, abandon it. If it's harmful, drop it. If it's positive, then you can keep it. And then you can speak according to that or act according to that. So that is what it means. Here, the Buddha went into detail. Basically, the body, like when we want to act, we need to reflect on it, whether it is harmful or not, whether it is painful or not, and we need to reflect on that. Then when we perform in the blue line here, when we perform it, we need to also reflect, make sure that we perform the act properly, without harm, without pain. And then after we perform the act, we should also reflect on it. And this takes a lot of training. So that's why, like, in the meditation practice, mindfulness practices can help us with that. So that's why and then the Buddha said, Rahula, you should train yourself. I will purify my bodily acts through repeated reflection. I will purify my verbal acts through repeated reflection. I will purify my mental acts through repeated reflection. Sometimes the thing is with us, when even for me myself, even I meditate so often, sometimes I just, stuff just comes out of my mouth, or I react too quick, which is not a good thing. So here the Buddha said, there are five pleasant things to be gained um, by acting skillfully, meaning what are the five? Long life, beauty, pleasure, status, and rebirth in heaven when we act skillfully. And there is a way to end our karma, meaning that so that we can enter nirvana. So the Buddha lists four types of karma that we do. One is karma that is dark with dark result, bright with bright result, dark and bright with dark and bright result. And then there's karma that is neither dark nor bright with neither dark nor bright result, leading to the ending of karma. I'm not gonna, if you like to read, I'm not gonna go through that, in detail. You guys can download the file, check with Danny. What that means is that when we act negatively or with unwholesome intention, then the result will be dark, period, and we will suffer the result of that. And then when we act with pleasant, with wholesome intention, then the result is, which is bright, and then the result of that is also bright, which also comes back to us. And then there is also, so when we act with dark and bright and bright intention, then we also will bear the dark and bright consequences. The one type of karma that we need to do is that can lead to the end of our creating karma is right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. And that is the Eightfold Path, meaning that when we live our lives according to the Eightfold Path, then we no longer create karma, that eventually we can enter nirvana. The other article that Bhikkhu Bodhi has is the Eightfold Path. I put a link here. This is the one way to end. Not only that we end karma, we also end our suffering. Bhikkhu Bodhi also discussed karma in this article. So one thing, because Danny said trauma is karma, but I changed it in here. The karma of trauma, meaning the consequence of trauma. I'm not sure if I showed you guys this study before. It was done in 2017. I forgot the name of the author. It was different authors. They reframed the way childhood trauma was researched. ACEs, meaning adverse childhood experiences. Basically, on the first column, the childhood, the abuse that or trauma that a kid suffer at home, that's the first column. The second column is the consequences of their experience with trauma of being abused. It leads to, like, they can't control their anger, they have depression, they have anxiety, they smoke or use drug or alcohol, and they also become violent. And then the long-term consequences is, I'm going to highlight some, right? Delinquency with criminal behavior, re-victimization, rape, domestic violence, intergenerational trauma. If they get married and have kids, they will do the same thing to their kids. So you guys see the consequences, which is the karma of trauma. And the reason that I say that is because I have been volunteering in the prison for the past 11 years, and I heard all kinds of horrible stories. So I'm listing here one person. His Dharma name, he took refuge in the Buddha. I call him Achita. He is now 41 years old. He told me his parents divorced as a kid. So his mom raised him, and his mom was having mental illness. He was neglected, and as a teenager, he ended up joining gangs and ended up, in prison. I think he has been in prison for some 10, 12 years already. He graduated from Cal State LA with with a BA in communication major. He is now in the MA degree of humanities at Dominguez Hills. He's graduating next year. He's eligible for parole. And again, he is an example of childhood trauma. Another person that I just met on Sunday, that Danny met also as well. He also took refuge the day before the prison shut down during the pandemic in March of 2020. He told me as a kid, he was traumatized by his father and older brother. His older brother was 9 years older. His brother is also incarcerated right now. He told me that his mom couldn't do anything when it happened. She grabbed him and ran down to the basement. Sometimes she was at work, so she couldn't protect him. So with all the trauma, what he ended up doing was he started drinking and using substance, and then he ended up committing his crime. And then the other worst thing that happened to him was his mom passed away in during the pandemic, April 2020, due to dementia. And during that time, I helped him to offer marriage for his mom for 7 weeks, and he did that for 7 weeks, and then after that he collapsed, meaning he became suicidal. He was having depression, so they gave him some medication and they transferred him to another prison. And I saw him on this past Sunday, and he's eligible for parole in 2031. This is the picture of our group. We will have some time to talk about our visit later. So I think with the right time, I think let's start our meditation session. Let's take some deep breaths and allow yourself to sit properly, whatever posture, whether you are sitting or lying down. Make sure that it is comfortable. As you take some deep breaths, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Because when you breathe in, your body tense up, and because your body needs to fill your lungs with air all the way down to your tummy. And then when you breathe out, it takes no effort, and that's how you can relax your body. So pay attention to that and try your best to relax. It helps to let go of your thoughts, thinking, planning, fear, worry, even the anxiety, if any. And remind yourself to relax. Remind yourself or tell yourself that you are safe. So you can be in the present moment. Once you are done, then breathe normally through your nose. Allow your body to settle. Just check in with the contact between your body and the surface that you are sitting on, or that the surface that you are lying down with. Then start with a smile. Notice how you feel when you smile, and how that feeling gives rise to the physiological sensations in the body. Basically, how does it feel in the body? Then notice that the sensations are quickly fading away. Then notice what you feel next, or how you feel next, without smiling. Let's continue with the sensual practice by first noticing your environment, the space around you, the room temperature. Check in with your mind, see how busy it is with thoughts and restless wandering around and easily distracted. Your feeling, your emotion, your mood, your attitude, all of these are part of your mind. your hearing consciousness. Be mindful that your hearing is always on. You cannot turn it off. Your sense of seeing, your sense of smell, your sense of taste. These three senses, when you're meditating, are at rest because there isn't any trigger. Then your sense of touch in the body, simply being aware of any tension, sensation, tightness, or physical pain throughout your body. It is constantly changing and taking place. You may even sense your energy level when you are paying attention to your sense of touch. You may feel tired, you may feel just okay, or energized. It'll be more obvious when you do a body scan. The sensual practice helps you to stay grounded and centered, no matter where you are, at any time, so you don't get distracted easily or feel overwhelmed when you're being triggered. You can do this practice anytime, anywhere, and in any activity. Just come back to the breath. When you're coming back to your breath, you're resetting everything. Let's sit back, stay with the breath. Use this time to process the thoughts in your conscious mind. All you have to do is relax, allow the thoughts to come, and you can quickly recognize and know what each thought is, and then let it go. You have no control over any thought that comes up, but you do have the power, this power of mindfulness, to let the thoughts go. You don't have to react to it. You don't have to judge it. And then you can let it go. It happens in a split second, even less than a second when you notice a thought. This is one way to clear your mind, your thoughts. You have accumulated from your past encounters through your senses, from today, from the past week, past month. And because you either ignore or suppress them, they're always there. So use this time to push them, flush them out. You may notice things that people said to you. If they are not helpful, let them go, even the people. Things that you have been telling yourself, your own narratives. If your own stories are not positive and helpful, drop them. Notice your desire. You desire something or someone, because it can lead to craving for sensual pleasure. Be aware of it. Don't let it affect your mental health. And then you're clinging. If you're clinging to someone or a relationship or an idea, be aware of it. Use your power of mindfulness. Don't let it affect your mental health. And be honest, be open, be objective. If you're criticizing yourself or judging yourself, let that go. It's not helpful to your mental health. This practice takes time. Usually it may take up to 30 to 40 minutes to clear your mind. So keep that in mind. But relaxed, allow yourself to relax. Check your posture. When you notice your mind wanders away, or if you are involved with a thought, let it go. Come back to the breath. Then still staying with your breath, now turn your attention to your feeling. Notice how you feel in each moment. Whether you feel pleasant or unpleasant. If you feel good, is it because of someone or something? Remember, that's called the mundane pleasant feeling. If you feel good from within after a few minutes of meditation, that's called the spiritual or super-mundane pleasant feeling. This is the type of feeling that you want to cultivate, because it's always there. If you don't feel good because of someone or something, just be aware of it. Notice your intention or your reaction to it. You don't have to suppress it, just sit with it. That's the mundane, unpleasant feeling. If you don't feel good from within because you're not satisfied with your practice, then let go of your demand or expectation of where you should be or how you should be. Drop it. Every time you come to a sitting, you always start anew. Every meditation is a new experience. Know that no one can dictate or affect how you feel. It's your reaction to the senses or to the people that you have encountered. But if you're able to let that go, then you will be able to feel that sense of calmness and peace, even a bit of joy. Even that bit of joy does not last. You come back to the breath. Just notice how you feel. Let's sit in silence for the next few minutes. Just allow yourself to be with the breath. You can practice concentration or mindfulness of your feeling. Let's check in with your mind, see how perhaps settled, how clear it is, less reactive, less judging, less wandering, less chattering, your feeling, your emotion, your mood, your attitude, your body, your posture, and the qualities of mindfulness, concentration, patience, kindness, and compassion that you just cultivated. So with that, I'll hand it over to Danny. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Venerable. Um, I feel that the topic of karma is probably the most important topic when discussing the contribution of the historical Buddha. And
Mm-hmm.
it's also the most misused. And I think you mentioned, for example, people always use it like karma as something, it's a punishment. You deserve it. You can't change it. Right? That's the way it is. Um, I think it's important to keep in mind that karma, at least the concept of karma, was not invented by Buddha. It
No.
exists long before he came along. In fact, that was the only, I mean, if you look back, you ask yourself, did Buddha did what he did because he wanted to be a leader of a religion? Or is it that he saw inequity and unfairness in the society he lives in and he wanted to change it? I think you can ask the same question about Jesus. What did Jesus wanted to be a leader of a new religion, or did he just saw inequity and he wanted to change it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so one has to look at the society at the time, when Buddha was living, which was that of the Indian society. And the Indian society has caste because India was invaded by the Aryans. So there was sort of the white populations that were the occupier, and then the Aborigines were the lower caste. And so in order to maintain that structure, the idea of karma was important. Once upon a time when I was teaching at UCLA, I had a lot of students from India, and we had discussions. And I asked my student, I said, it's interesting that Buddha was Indian
Mm-hmm.
and Buddhism, started in India, and yet Buddhism almost does not exist in
It's
India.
joy.
It's rank. I mean, the people who consider themselves Buddhists is less than those who consider themselves Catholics.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So yeah, and in fact, if you really study those who consider themselves Buddhists, they don't actually study Buddha's teaching. They just worship him like a deity.
Yeah.
So I asked my students that why is that? He says, well, Buddhism cannot exist in India because the concept of compassion cannot exist in our religion. And so it says, for example, when you see a beggar in the street, Buddhist teaches you to offer, right, to share, and you give a coin or give something to the beggar because that's what a Buddha is supposed to do. And they said in India, that's not acceptable because the belief is that that person is suffering because of his karma. And if you were to improve his life, you would destroy that progress because he was supposed to suffer and suffer and suffer until he wears down his karma and he will be in a better place. So I find it very interesting. So when you think about Buddha at the time, when he sees that inequity, the unfairness, he wanted to change it. And so what he brought was the idea that karma can be changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it is something you can think of as a record of your action. We think of physical action, right? Somebody murders someone and end up in prison. Well, that's a result of his physical action. But the idea of karma is that even when you have a mental action, that could be a record, and that's now someone might say, well, how can that be? Now, actually, there's a movie called Interstellar. I don't know. Have you seen that?
No.
Interstellar is what's unique about that movie is that the script. The movie is about space traveling,
Mm-hmm.
and the script is written by a professor at UC at Caltech, whom I know of. I don't know him, but I know of. He's very famous. He's a good friend of Stephen Hawkins, and Stephen Hawkins used to come to Caltech every summer, and so they collaborate, and he studies primarily gravitational waves. But in any case, in his spare time, he writes a script. He writes plenty of scientific scripts. And Interstellar is the movie that he wrote, and everything in the Interstellar is based on his research. And so the two concepts um, that is very interesting in that movie. One um, the relative of time. So as you travel closer to the black hole, the time becomes longer and longer and longer to a point where part of the movie, um, the astronauts landed in a planet and overstay and for only 3 hours. But then when they returned back to the spaceship, which is away from the gravitational field, it was already 27 years. And that's a very interesting concept in Buddhist teaching, right? That as we move away from our realm towards the rupa and the arupa, the time gets longer.
Yeah.
But that's one thing. The other thing is that they talk about traveling back in time. So they said, essentially that everything that we do has a record in somewhere, and you can actually travel back in time. And so that's the story. Part of the story is how the astronaut wanted to communicate with um, his daughter when she was young, in order to give her the code to, that's the movie. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea that you can travel back in time to see the record of things that happened in the past,
Mm-hmm.
that's karma. That's
Yeah.
karma, right? Every action that we have. Another way that I like to explain it, because I have to do this a lot, is I said, look, karma is something you can change. If you cannot change, there's no point of Buddhism. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually find it really painful to see even, someone who considers himself as a Buddhist scholar would actually, say something like, well, that's karma. You have to accept it. No, that's not, no, you don't have to accept it. You can change it. That's the whole point. Five skandhas are empty. That's what it says, is that it's empty of any permanency. You can change it, right? Just quickly, one example I like to use is I said, oh, imagine you grow tomato, and then somehow somebody gave you a seed and made the tomato uh, uh, bitter. So now you're growing bitter tomato, and the more you grow, the worse it gets because every time you eat a tomato, there's more seeds, and now and so that's how you have to understand how mind works. Is that if we continue to express yourself in anger and fear, it would just
Add
lead
up.
to more anger and more fear. That's karma, but you can actually change it.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of skill, and that's where mindfulness comes in. That's where,
Right.
all of that skill comes in. But you have to do it with the belief that you can change. Now, if we could not change karma, then we're wasting our time visiting the prison.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, the
Yeah.
two examples that you gave is a perfect example of someone who understood that and said, "Yeah, I can make a change, even though I was born from a broken family, even though
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had a president who was raised by a single parent. His father abandoned him, and yet he became a president. There's so many examples of that, and so I think that's. Now, I think at the same time, I think we don't tend to use the word karma because of the bad connotation. So it's not exactly the same, but we use the word trauma at least to explain something.
Mm-hmm.
Explain something. If the person that we try to rehabilitate doesn't couldn't even figure out why he is where he is today, it's very difficult to change, right? So I think they're not the same. The concept of trauma and the concept of
Mhm.
karma are not the same,
Oh no.
but they're close enough. They're close enough that we could use it as a placeholder,
Hmm.
right? And I think that's so anyway, let's just quickly, it's almost time, we only have 5 minutes left. So as a summary, this is the second year that I was able to go with Venerable to the state prison in I keep forgetting the town's name.
Alchila.
Well, Chachita. So Chachita is, if you familiar with California and you want to go from San Francisco to Fresno, then it's about 1 hour north of Fresno.
Hmm.
It's a farm country, right? So
Hmm.
and then you just go off the freeway. You go in and you see, fruit trees and grapes and stuff, and then eventually you land in this prison. Now, this is, if I understand correctly, this is a state prison, and it's
Hmm.
what's called a level 4 state
Level
prison.
two.
Oh, level 2. Four is
Maximum.
maximum. Oh, I always forget. Yeah, so this is level 2, and so if you murder someone, you're level 4,
Hmm.
and if you have good behavior, they downgrade you to 3, which
And
means that
then,
you enjoy a little bit more freedom, a little bit life gets easier, and then if you continue to improve yourself, then you end up at level 2, which is where we were. Or you had a crime that was not violent in nature. They might still put you in level 3 as observation, and then they kick you down to level 2.
hmm.
Um, it's still a very difficult place. It's a male prison. There is a female prison next to it, but we don't go there. Now,
Yeah.
interestingly, um, this is a prison that is actually very far from where Venerable lives. It takes him 4.5 hours and more to drive there. It takes me almost 3 hours if there's traffic. 4.5 if there's 5 accidents
Traffic.
along the way, which
Yeah.
is which was the case coming back. Um, so it's kind of far from Venerable, and Venerable doesn't get to go there that often. But interestingly, he actually has a lot of student there. Ironically, if you go to the other prison and you improve your standing, you get to go to level 2. Then you're actually away from Venerable De Hong. Venerable, he didn't get to see you. So
Yep.
so when he showed up, he had a lot of people that knew him either physically or by correspondence.
Hmm.
So there was a student that was there, and I talked to him, and he said, "Oh, I said, do you know Venerable?" He said, "Oh, yeah, yeah. I started writing to him 2 months ago. He helped me a lot." So we have a lot of that. So one of the things that we were able to do that we haven't been able to, this is the first time we were able to do that, is that we were able to bring in uh, food. And as it turns out, there is a Panda Express very close. Um, I don't know if I can say that, but it ran by a guy who was the manager, whose brother was actually incarcerated.
Hmm.
So he knew the system, so he was able to make it possible for us to just place an order, for available to place an order and have the food delivered at the gate. We went out and get it. How many trays we had now? We had like 8 trays of food.
Yeah, 8 trays of food and five
Yeah,
trays of side orders.
yeah. So it
Yeah.
was a lot of food for 45 people.
Yeah, and there were a lot of stranger, a few like 5 guys who walked by. They asked to take some, but that was good. It was
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. It was good. It was good. So I find it interesting that, my observation is at least these two things. One is that it's a lot more relaxed this year than it was last year. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it's either that the prison rule has changed. I mean, prison changes all the time,
Probably.
probably. But the other one is that we were just at the end of COVID, so it was really, really tense. And so
Mm-hmm.
this time I find people a little bit more relaxed. The guards are very relaxed. The individuals are very relaxed. That's one. And the other one is that I find there's a much more focused on, they're much more respectful of each other's space. I don't know if you noticed that. So, for example, I would sit and someone want to walk in front of me, and he would say, "Excuse me," even though he's not touching me. The fact
Hmm.
that he's intruding or he's passing through my personal space, you know, he would make sure that it was okay. I think in prison,
That's how it is. You have to say
that's
that.
how it.
Otherwise,
Yeah, yeah. So this is, because you can get killed, get stabbed with a sharp
yeah.
toothpick. You know,
Hmm.
so I noticed that. I noticed that they don't touch other people's thing.
No,
So, for example, if you sit somewhere and you get up to get food, you will leave your cup there. No one would touch that.
no,
No one
you're
would
not
touch that,
allowed.
right?
I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, that's why I remember you asked them to lie down, and I
yeah.
think in level 2 you may be allowed, but level 3 and level 4 you're not allowed.
You're not allowed. Yeah.
You're
Well,
not allowed, and
yeah, that
also
was
it's
the
not
part.
safe.
Yeah, yeah. It's also not safe. Yeah, you
Yeah.
take. That's correct. So,
Hmm.
so they already feel very safe
Yeah. Oh yeah.
in the chapel. I mean,
Hmm.
I mean, um, we feel safe.
Oh yeah.
We feel safe because I mean we don't judge, so we're not there to judge. So we don't put up a armor. And it's interesting that when you don't put up an armor, then the other side don't put up an armor either.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that's how we keep safe. But in any case, yeah, the funny part was that after lunch, everybody was kind of tired. And I
Yeah.
suggest that we do a lying down meditation. And Venerable says, no, 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 no. Let's think about this first.
Yeah.
And sure enough, people don't want to lie down next to
Yeah.
each other. Yeah, so
Correct.
we end up doing a lying down meditation sitting. I'm the only person lying down. Yeah. No,
Yeah. Hmm.
I understand that. I understand that. But that was the thing is that people are very respectful of each other's personal space, and then also they have they have a system. They live like in a group for the longest time.
Hmm.
So as soon as we get ready for lunch, you can see that a small group of the of Dharma friends are the volunteers. So everybody else left the room way outside, and then these like 8 individuals or so, they start organizing table. They start putting the tray up and all the utensils and all that. They're very organized, very
Hmm.
self-organized.
Yeah.
And then but they already, some guy says, first 12.
Yeah.
And 12 people came in. No, first they asked, they said, Denny, you want to go first? I said, no, 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 we don't go first. I want to go last. So anyway,
Thank you.
so the 12 people
Hmm.
go first. And
Yeah.
then I start notice that they don't actually give all the food. So for example, they would divide it into groups.
Hmm.
And then they would say, you can take two out of this group and two out of that group and two out of
Yeah.
that group. And it's very equal portion.
Hmm.
Know. And then
Yeah.
I see a lot of older guys, they know they can't finish, so they come in with their little Tupperware
Hmm.
to get the food out. And then when they get the first round where they finish, then they say, okay, anybody want refill? And then they
A
said,
second.
one dish only, and then they
Mhm.
refill.
Yeah.
I find
It
it.
was
I was
good.
actually but anyway, I was at the end of the first. After all the people get the plate they're eating, then I walk up, and the guy was continuing says, "Well," and then I look at the first one because I don't like meat that much, so I saw um, the chow mein and the fried rice, and I said, "Can I have the chow mein and the fried rice?" And the guy said, "No, you can only have one." I said, "Do you know who I am?" No, I didn't
I,
say that. I didn't say
uh-huh.
that. But it's fairness. It's just how it is. So I think that was a very good thing it wasn't for the food. The point is not about the food. The point is that Venerable, said, "Oh, by the way, Danny is the one that provide all the food." And I said, "No, no, no, I didn't provide all the food. I organized a donation from my sangha, consists mainly of elderly ladies, and these are
Mhm.
grandmas, and so um, offering food is actually a practice. It's a spiritual practice on both sides. We practice." Dana, we
Yeah.
practice, sharing, and you practice gratitude. So it's not about the food. I mean, our job is not to bring them good food.
Hmm.
It
But it is good food, trust
is
me.
good food. Yeah,
I
it
don't
is
think they
good food.
ever had it, you know. I mean,
Yeah, so they
yeah,
really enjoy the food.
yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, not they don't get it that often, but at least that's good. The best part is that Venerable had turns out that he has secret weapons. He had a paper bag full of chocolate that
Truffles.
he truffles that he smuggled into the prison as his personal lunch or something. And so they didn't search. And then that was a surprise. Everybody got one. And so, but I think just quickly, just the variety of people that we met there. I actually summarized it for my Sangha. First guy I met was a guy that didn't speak English.
Oh yeah,
And
a lot of there was a Vietnamese also didn't speak English.
yeah, there's a lot of people inside that didn't speak English, and this guy, I mean, was Chinese, and
Hmm.
I spoke with him in broken Mandarin, and his eyes was light up. He says, "Oh, you speak Mandarin?" I said, "No, no, no, I speak Cantonese, but I can understand Mandarin." So, turns out that I suspect that I don't know, but just my theory. I know that he told me that he's from
Wuhan.
Hunan province,
Hmm.
but he has a badge, and the picture in his badge doesn't look anything like him. Looks more like the gangster,
Hmm.
illegal, someone, whatever. He committed a crime, and I'm sure that as soon as if he finishes sentence, get parole, and the first thing we do is that they would deport him back to
Yeah.
China. But
Hmm.
in any case, he was very interested in what we do in there, and
Hmm.
he didn't quite understand it because it's all in English.
Yeah.
But that's one example of people who we help is that he gave them some outlet for spiritual fulfillment.
Hmm.
Another person that I met was amazing. Was I was sitting waiting for my turn. Everybody was getting their lunch, and the guy sitting next to me looked down his plate. He had a little bit of chow mein and a little bit of vegetables. And I said, "Oh, you're a vegetarian." He said, "Well, actually, I'm a vegan." I said, "Okay." And then Barry will walk by and he says, "Oh, he's from Germany." I said, "Really?" I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah." I said, I noticed your accent. So, which part of Germany are you from?" He said, "Well, I'm actually German Australian."
Australian.
Yeah. And I thought, well, what does Germany has to do with Australia? I thought I heard it wrong. I thought it was German Austrian. No, he said it's Australian. I was born in Germany, and I went to Australia later. And
Hmm.
so, you have to be careful asking questions, So,
Oh yeah.
but I wanted to know more. So I said, "Oh, so where did you go to school?" And he says, "Well, I got my bachelor degree in Germany, and then I got my PhD in Australia."
Yep. Yep.
Wow,
Yep. I tell you,
I said, "Really?" I said, "What did you do?" He says, "Oh, I'm in biomedicine,
biomed. Hmm. Yeah.
biomedicine." So we talked, and turns out he actually graduated, worked many years as a scientist, and actually has his own company.
Yeah.
And then so I asked him, how did you end up being in the United States? He said, "Oh, I came to San Diego thinking that I need to restart my company there, get more funding." Now, I never talk about why he ended up where he
Hmm.
is. And
Yeah.
so, that's the only way that closest, which is so, I said something like, so when are you going to get back to when do you think you can get back to your work? Like, that's another way of asking when you get released. And he said, "Well, maybe soon." He says, there's Germany and United States has a way of exchanging prisoners, and so
Hmm.
he might get released back to Germany. And he says, "But my sentence will be a lot lighter in
Hmm.
Germany, so chances are I will be free," and something like
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
So I asked him. I said, "So one last thing," I asked him, "So how are you keeping up with your research?" He said, "Yeah." He says, once a month my sister sent me I don't know, the nature, the 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 proceeding, and that's how I keep up. I said, "Well,
Hmm.
good luck to you. Hope I never see you again."
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's really I'm very grateful that I have a chance to go with you to again, it's a practice. We were not there as volunteers
Correct.
providing service. We were there for our own practice
Yeah.
because it's a very dangerous place if you can't maintain mindfulness, and because you fear and when you start judging, that's
Judging.
that's very dangerous. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you know anyway,
Hmm.
okay. uh and this is a place where karma really is very important, right? So I
Correct.
mean, on one hand you say, hey, you're here because of karma, but you have to understand that yes, but at the same time you can change your karma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, anything you want to add?
No, no, I think that's it. If there's anything comes up, I can add to it later. But again, thank you, for your presence there. It means a lot to them too, because with 46 people, it will be challenging for me to do a lot of stuff. But it was great,
Yeah,
They
yeah,
they were
yeah,
they were
yeah,
very grateful.
yeah. Performers always bring someone to warm up the audience, so I can do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to turn off the broadcast, and then we'll have